this video, we're going to be looking at CFAM sheet 105, expense 5. Expense 5 is going to allow us to manipulate up to 5 different columns of the accounting string, and by default has no school selected, which is why we have nothing showing, but is going to give us fund, source of fund, function, location, and program, those first 5 pieces of that accounting string. By default, it's limited just to traditional schools, since that's where the majority of our users are. There's nothing keeping us from flipping to co-op or charter if we wanted to see those. It's also going to, by default, only show us transactions. There's a time to look at transfers, but for the most part, when you're looking at expenditures, transactions is what we're wanting to see. Today, we're going to look at Cabot. Click Apply. And as soon as I do that, it's giving me all fund, source of fund, function, location, and program expenditures of transaction nature from 2022. We're going to limit that down to just operating expenditures. And as I do that, you'll see that the source of fund expenditures limit down to just the 2000s, as we'd expect. We're going to look Arkansas Better Chance. We're going to look at just the preschool expenditures, which is going to take out some vehicle expenditures, directors, instructional staff, parent involvement monies and expenditures. And then we're getting down to location. We want to see just Westside Elementary. So what this would do is it would answer the question, if someone had it, how much did we spend on just preschool coded expenditures through ABC Pre-K in the operating fund for Westside Elementary. You could do this similarly with anything else. You could say, how much do we spend in water at a specific campus through a specific building fund or operating fund. Anything in that accounting string that we can think through how to pick out, we could display here. So this gives us a good example of how we could see just the operating funds, source of funds for preschool at a specific campus. Cabot being a large enough district that we have multiple elementaries with preschools and preschool expenditures. There's nothing keeping us from changing how these columns are displayed or what pieces of the accounting string that we pick up. So in this case, program isn't very helpful because we know these are preschool expenditures. So if I'll change this to object instead, I'm now looking at the first 4 columns of the accounting string and then the last. This is actually getting into what the money was spent on, and as you'll see, there's a number of things dealing with classified and certified, salaries, benefits, and those kinds of things. This would allow us to come through and say all the way down to what did we spend on substitutes for this campus for pre-K through this one source of fund, the ABC program, in operating. Again, that's kind of a really specific question, but this has given us the total amount spent, which is a little under $25,000. As in all other sheets in CFAM, this red line is showing us our budgeted amount, and so they close that out to the dollar. And then we have an analysis column, which is showing by default the budget balance, which is 0 when we've spent it all, but there's nothing keeping us from saying dollar change from previous year. If we had multiple years selected, we would then be able to see the offset of that. Let's see if we can get some other campuses in here that might have had multiple years of pre-K. What that showed us was Westside Elementary has only had a pre-K from 22 on. There was no prior year to look at. But as I opened up an additional campus, we got more years that I can now see those expenditures for Central Elementary for multiple years. Being that in 21 they had 0 expenditures, I would expect this to be a new program that came online during 2022. Very specific example. It's probably not necessarily something you would use this sheet for, but hopefully you get the idea that this gives us the manipulative capabilities for going through 5 pieces of the accounting string and be able to pick out just the pieces we want to see to hopefully answer questions that come up to us much easier than it would if we had to go pull multiple reports, go through pivot tables in Excel, and those sorts of things. Keep in mind that all these reports we can then download an image, we can subscribe and have this emailed to us periodically. All those same kind of tips and tricks work across sheets as you're going through them in CFAM.